Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to one of these Irish stew videos that I've been making recently that you seem to like, where we talk about a whole range of things, not all of which are book related. In fact, the throat clearing at the beginning is not book related usually, where we talk about the world and then the United States and then broader YouTube and then finally BookTube and then me. And for somebody who lives, eats, and breathes books and reading and writing, it's amazing how many times the me section doesn't have anything to do with books. And it's not going to have anything to do with books today either. But first we'll start with the world and the world stories ongoing. In fact, the world and the U.S. And YouTube are all ongoing stories that I'm looking underneath. The ongoing story is so ongoing that there's really nothing useful to point out about it. The ongoing story for the world is this ceasefire deal in Gaza, which looks like it is going to, hold on to your socks here, fall apart. It looks like it's going to fall apart like every other ceasefire deal that's ever happened in the region. And that's changing. The arithmetic of that is changing every day. So that's the thing that's going on, and that's in a way not worth talking about because it's not resolvable, not yet. Not in fine detail. It's not helped any by the fact that every single party involved is lying. And they've become so good at it, and they have smoothed out the friction. In other words, they've either neutered the press corps in America or shot journalists, like is happening in Gaza, so that those lies are much more effective than they ever have been. So it may be the work of future generations to figure out what's going on here, but the main thing that struck me about that story in the last 24 hours were the pictures that are coming out of Palestinians going home to literal piles of rock. Just literal piles of rock. Whole streets of rock piles. No trees, no grass, no livestock, no water, no food, no shelter, nothing. Just, yay, they got to go home. That obviously is not tenable. Those people will starve to death if they're not given aid, and the amount of aid is being decreased all these things are in motion. So we can ignore the world for now, which I'm sure will please you as we head into the weekend. And then we can deal with the U.S. And again, the main subject in the U.S. Is developing minute by minute. It is an ongoing story of the Trump regime's obvious intent to invade Venezuela, to attack and invade Venezuela. That is their obvious attempt. They are making more and more provocative moves against a sovereign nation. And after a little while of that, any sovereign nation, no matter how small they are, Venezuela knows perfectly well that it can't stand up against the Texas National Guard, much less the United States government. They know that perfectly well. But if another country, for whatever reason, and in this case it will be money, if another country is blowing up your citizens on the high seas and then starts to blow up things on your mainland, there comes a point when you have to withdraw your diplomats and say, if you do that again, we're at war. You're already making war on us. So I don't have any idea how that's going to work. I don't know what that's going to look like. I would like to think that it would decrease the chances of an American president who does that ever winning the Nobel Peace Prize. But that's also a question of money, so I think we will see it. But no, underneath that, again, if I look underneath that main story, which is still developing, so there's really no way to comment on it, every element of it is self-evident. The United States government is killing people on the open ocean in the hopes that they are Venezuelan. The United States government is attacking the sovereign territory of Venezuela. And, not to put too fine a point on it, but the United States government, the Trump regime renamed the Department of Defense. Illegally, it's still the Department of Defense. But they issued a royal proclamation saying that it's the Department of War. Well, you don't call it that unless you intend to make it that. But that story, like the story in Gaza, is fluid. So in the United States, we can talk about something that is not fluid. Something that has changed, a fundamental change in my country that is never going to not change. So we are going to need to map out, no one's doing it because no one believes it's permanent, but we're going to have to map out what happens when the federal government is shut down. The federal government is not coming back up. It's going to be shut down permanently. Russell Vought and Project 2025 know perfectly well that they want the responsibilities that would have been undertaken by the federal government and its bureaucracy to be done by church councils, Christian church councils, fundamentalist Christian church councils. That's what they want. And they now have that. they now have that. The United States government is shut down, and I am still seeing in what the absolutely stupidity of the mainstream media. I'm still seeing people talk about, oh, it's day 14 of the government shutdown. Or remember, 10 years ago, there was another one. We're coming up on the third longest government shutdown. But we hear rumors. There are rumbles. There are no rumbles. You cannot negotiate if the other party is not even in the building. Trump cult is not interested in the government being up and running. They're not interested in what's hurting their constituents. They're not interested in anything at all but one racist, sexist, fascist, lying moron rapist from Queens. That's it. That's all. Literally all. That's literally everything. Their children? No. Their aging parents? No. Their constituents? No. Their own bank account? No. Just him. Only him. So they're not going to go to town halls anymore, obviously, but they're not accountable in any way either. So we have to look. I have to look. No one else is looking, but I have to look at what it will mean for the United States government to be shut down permanently. For they're just what you doing, baby? Oh, you can do it. There you go. And there are some nodes that are more vulnerable than others for a permanent shutdown, for there being no more U.S. government. There are some nodes that are more vulnerable than others in the short term. Of course, a big one is national parks, which are open to the public. The public is streaming into national parks, most of them, most of the big ones. And they're not being guided anymore. They're not being picked up after anymore. They're not being protected anymore. They're not being instructed about risks or safety measures or anything like that anymore. They're just using these places as their local park. And who knows what will come of that. Probably lots and lots of degradation of national land. But the other extremely vulnerable node is, of course, air travel. Air traffic controllers are at work, but they're not being paid. So a lot of them by now have, I don't know how many Americans have realized that this shutdown is not going to end. So it could be that some of those air traffic controllers are waking up every morning saying, honey, check the news. Something like that. Has MAGA come to the negotiation table like all the other times they've come to the negotiation table? I think it could be that some people are doing that. But I think what's more likely is that a lot of air traffic controllers are calling in sick from their day job in order to find work at the local package store or as a UPS driver or something like that. And before that results in the restructuring that has to come, airlines or airports or something like that have to start hiring these people as independent contractors to do their old job, to come in and you will get paid. The government won't pay you, but we'll pay you because we can't have our air nodes shut down. Before that happens, before that financial compromise is made somehow that's got to happen. Air travel can't just stop. But before that happens, there's going to be a massive amount of tragedies. Planes running into each other full of passengers on runways, planes running into each other much more likely at the instant of takeoff or landing, because they're stacked 20 on top of each other with one person to do it all, and that person is on their fourth bottle of Adderall and hasn't slept in 10 days. I would imagine that the air traffic situation in the United States is already right about at the edge of that. So that's another thing that we have to reckon. Of course, another long-term result of the fact that the U.S. government is not going to come back on. It's been shut down and it's not coming back. Is that Russell Vought and his Project 2025 church councils are not going to be paying those employees. They don't like them anyway. So one thing that definitely comes from all of this, aside from air travel or national parks or road upkeep or any of the other things that the government does, payment, of course, poor benefits and food benefits and whatnot. Aside from all of that, it's also a gigantic layoff. It's tens and tens of thousands of people who are now out of work. With all the the knock-on effects that will have for the economy. I would love it if some journalist in America could say, well, no one's talking about this. There's no negotiation going on anywhere in Washington. MAGA is not interested in negotiating. They're not interested in this subject. They don't even notice that the government is shut down. Since that's true, maybe we should start talking to our audience about what happens if the government never comes back up. And they're not doing it. They're not doing it. And they're also not doing anything else. They're not peppering Trump with questions about this new triumphal arch that he wants to build, will certainly build in Washington. An obscenity, just like his ballroom, and also a perfect indication that he doesn't plan on leaving. And I don't know if you've heard the rumors. Doubtless you will in a week or so when they finally rise to the level of obviousness so that the mainstream media notices them, trips over them. There's also lots of talk, in addition to all the talk about Trump running for a third term, which isn't technically going to happen. He's just going to stay in power. He's not going to run for president. He's just going to stay in power. But in addition to that, there's also lots of talk in MAGA world about renaming Washington, D.C. And this triumphal arch goes hand in hand with that. So, but the settled subject in the U.S. is the government shutdown. The fact that there's no more U.S. government. Just church councils. That's what Project 2025 wants. Just church councils. So if you're black, you can sweep the halls of our church council during the day, but you're not in town after night. This is a sundown town. This is a sundown country. If you're a woman, you're a domestic animal. You don't have a say at all. You make the sandwiches. You keep the coffee hot. And if the coffee isn't hot enough, we'll wait for you to heat it up to full steam and then throw it in your face. And if you're an atheist, no, you don't get to live. You don't have any rights at all. Anyone can refuse you service, including groceries, for any reason whatsoever. They want it that way, and that's the way it is. But who knows what the long-term results will be. But anyway, we can move on to BookTube, where I have a fascinating video to recommend on BookTube from Lofi Book Club about book bros on TikTok. It's the first time I've heard the phrase. I don't spend a whole lot of time on Book Talk. But from what I can tell, it's exactly what I've been calling dude bros for 35 years. Same thing. Guys who have mimeographic taste in books. And this element was not stressed very much in in Lofi Book Club's video, but also guys that view reading as a weapon against women or a refuge from them. And Lofi Book Club highlights at the beginning of her video one particular book talker who seems utterly insufferable, just incredibly insufferable, talking about this problem and talking about the fact that the main problem with book bros is that they have no diversity in their reading. They tend to read only what this person refers to as cis-het white men. Okay. So, white men, sure, that's visually obvious. Heterosexual, you don't have any idea, and cis is a nonsense term. So, alive, they're alive. Okay, so they're alive. Yes, but as an opener, I'll leave a link to the video so you can see what I'm talking about. But as an ambassador of any kind to the idea of maybe questioning the phenomenon of book bros, the first person that Lofi Book Club highlights could not be worse. And the rest of the video is full of people basically reacting against that person. And I understand completely. Because that person is gatekeeping. That person is saying reading is a moral activity. Reading is a test of your personal worth. It's a test of your moral character. Reading is nothing of the kind. And I gritted my teeth, especially when I saw that part, because I have encountered booktubers who are like that. There are booktubers in my subscription feed right now who 100% completely believe that reading is a virtue signaling activity, that it has a moral component, or that it is entirely moral. Reading not only isn't entirely moral, it has no moral component at all. You are not a better person because you read disabled authors from East Uzbekistan. You are not a better person for that. That doesn't make you better in any way. And there are booktubers who, since the diversity craze of 2015 and 2016, have entirely built not only their channels, but their reading identities around this kind of empty, stupid virtue signaling. And the first person in Lofi Book Club's analysis video about Book Bros is that kind of a reader to a T. I remember when that furor reached a pitch in 2016, 2017, there were a whole bunch of booktubers that I just had to unsubscribe from. I subscribed to them. I eagerly left comments on their videos, even though they don't like me. And I would eagerly click on a video of theirs when they made a new one. And then after a while, one after another, there's a list of about 10 of them that come right to my mind that I used to actively, happily subscribe to. And one video after another. It would be not only I am reading paraplegic authors from East Timor, but you're a bad person if you're not. Diversity for the sake of lording it over other people. The same kind of people who remove J.K. Rowling's books from their shelves and then ostentatiously tell you that they have. And who, as I pointed out, 9 years ago, would certainly mention it if they walked into your house as a guest and saw her books on your shelf. They would certainly mention it. They'd be very kind. They'd be very patronizing, very much like Russell Vaught and Project 2025. They'd be very kind. They would be the exact same kind of sanctimonious Christian kindness that is a very soft way of saying, or else we kill you. There is no soft way of saying anything that has an implied, or else we kill you. I remember when that happened, when that affected this little corner of BookTube, where all of a sudden there were 10 or 11 BookTube channels that I couldn't watch anymore. Because I wasn't hearing what they were reading. I wasn't hearing what they thought about what they were reading. I was hearing what they thought about, the lifelong struggle with a capital S. So I found that interesting on its own. But even more interesting was the subject of Book Bros just in general, which I think from what I watched is synonymous with what I think of as Dude Bros. It's just a matter of terminology. That's all. Which is an interesting phenomenon on its own. I'm sure you've seen some channels like that. There are plenty of them in and off this little corner of BookTube of men, usually beards, usually tattoos, usually bald, identical bookshelves behind them, who read the exact same books and will not read anything else. Who might even, in a hypothetical, hold up a copy of Pride and Prejudice and say, and nothing more than that. When you say anything more than that, the implication is loud and clear that if you like Pride and Prejudice, you're either a woman or a gay man. Could not be any clearer implication, so I don't need to say it and risk getting demonetized. Those people exist. They are part even of our little slice of the ecosystem of BookTube. I found it fascinating. I'll leave a link because I'm not really summarizing the video exhaustively, and it's an interesting subject. I'd be curious to know, though, what you do with these people. Surely some Book Bros or Dude Bro readers or whatever. Surely you've encountered some of them. What do you do with them? What do you do with people whose entire world, their entire reading world, is this? What do you do with such people in your own life? You can't talk about books with them, even though they love reading that book. You can't talk about books with them. So what do you do? What do you do with someone who... We like to think that there's this common glue of being readers, right? That unites us all. We're readers, at least we're that. No matter all our other differences, at least we're that. But what do you do with a guy who holds up Pride and Prejudice and says, I have no idea, so I'm asking you. But anyway, then we get on to the subject of me to wrap up this video, which is good because I have pretty much lost active sunlight. It's been dodgy all day. And for me, we also deal with a subject that is still in flux. It is still continuing. And that is housekeeping gate. Housekeeping gate. Oh, wait a minute. We can't get to me. I skipped straight to BookTube. I skipped YouTube. Oh, goodness. Let's go back to YouTube. Because YouTube also has stories that are ongoing, that still have infinite legs amazingly, even though the realities behind them are completely clear. Same thing with the U.S. and Venezuela. You don't rename the Department of Defense the Department of War unless you intend to go to war. Same thing with Gaza. Israel is not going to keep the peace. Hamas is not going to disarm. So the story is ongoing, and you know that just by the look of it. And the same thing is true. Time for a commercial break. The same thing is true with general, broader YouTube. There are two stories that are still broiling on YouTube, where the basic realities are known, and yet somehow the stories have infinite legs, mainly because people are willing to lie and lie and lie and see things that aren't there. One of those stories is the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Believe it or not, the conspiracy theories about what actually happened to him are multiplying by the minute. They aren't going away. And like with so many assassination conspiracy theories, the number one question that they all have to answer that they don't even address is Tyler Robinson, the guy who's arrested for the crime. Right now, the standard thought among these conspiracy theorists is that he certainly didn't do it. He is certainly a patsy, and they're just trying to figure out who did do it. But he's in custody. If he's a patsy, when he knows that the Trump cult is baying for his blood, they want not only his execution, but his execution immediately, then what is causing him to hold up his part of the lie, if that is true? If he's a patsy, if he didn't do it, what's causing him to stay silent? That story is ongoing, and there's another story on YouTube, broader YouTube, that is also ongoing, and that is Hassan Piker, the extremely popular Twitch streamer, who shocked his dog a week ago on a stream, and has been lying about it and face saving about it and repositioning about it ever since. And the internet has been going crazy with this, just crazy with it. Now, I told you last time about a journalist named Taylor Lorenz who broke a story about a dark money group financing left-wing YouTubers. And she said, I did this for a major publication. They have lawyers. They have fact checkers. I checked my facts. I have copies of the contract. This is solid reporting. Made people like David Pakman or Lev Parnas, or Lev Parnas' son, or Brian Tyler Cohen, the maestro of it all, made them look really bad for about a week. And I don't know if it hurt their subscriber counts or not. But when the left-wing ecosystem in YouTube and off YouTube went after Taylor Lorenz, I naturally thought of defending her. I thought, well, this bears all the hallmarks of rock-solid reporting. So, if they're going after you, it probably means that you struck a nerve. But then she did a video the other day saying, no, what you saw in that Twitch stream was not right. What your eyes saw was not right. Hassan Piker's dog caught her dew claw on something, or had a twisted ankle or something. And I told you about this a week ago, and I told you, go and look at the clip. Don't do anything else. Just look at the clip, especially if you've had a dog. You'll know exactly what you're seeing. I have no thought about Hassan Piker, a big doofus stoner. I have no thought about him one way or another. But I knew what I saw when I saw that clip, and I said that his first response would be Trumpian. His first response would be to say, you didn't see what your eyes saw. I will tell you what you saw. And then this Taylor Lorenz person did a video on YouTube that I linked you to, saying, no, you didn't see what you saw. No, I know Hassan Piker. I've babysat for the dog. And no, she doesn't have a shock collar. He never uses a shock collar. Which is false. That contention is false. I have no idea how he behaved himself when she was around. But I know what I saw. The thing is on video. And if that's false, then maybe her earlier reporting about those left-wing YouTubers is also false in some way. Maybe it was journalistic revenge porn. Maybe she had a bad breakup with one of the people on the list. I no idea. But that story has just kept going, and it is still going. Hassan Piker has now used, I don't even know how many variations. He has said it's a vibration collar. It's not a shock collar. He has said shock collars are good. They're really effective for training. He has said there isn't a collar. You don't even see a collar. He has said, no, she was just whiny for no reason. She was really spoiled, and here I am yelling at her, so that's making her feel bad, so she yelps in pain. No, no. If, if a dog has been spoiled by your mother and gotten everything they want and gotten up on the furniture and gotten all sorts of treats, and then suddenly they go back to you and you're not doing those things, again, I put it just to your own eyes. Your own eyes. They don't yelp in pain with that change. They don't do it. So, a startled pain. A pain the dog didn't see coming. But now everybody else, of course, the one point that Taylor Lorenz made that was right is that this has become a football in a much larger ideological war between left and right. And that is definitely true. She used the fact that that is deplorable, and she used the fact that that is deplorable to mean that the incident didn't happen. We can all look at the incident and see that it happened. It doesn't exculpate anything. But I saw that the football game is very much in full swing. Tim Pool, the Trump cult weirdo with the beanie, got in on it as well, and the heart and soul of his own reaction to it, aside from anything else, anything deplorable, was we can see it. We're not talking about a rumor in a back room here. We can see it. It's on video. We can see it. Of course, the gigantic mental disconnect, because Tim Pool is Trump cult. He worships Trump. Not, oh my God, the New England Patriots in their heyday were great. I absolutely worship Tom Brady. Not the secular kind of worship. He literally worships Donald Trump as a god. And no one, not only in American history, but ever in human history, has done that kind of factual gaslighting more than Donald Trump has. Literally no one. No single individual in human history has ever lied as much as he has about things that you can literally see with your own eyes. No one. Not just in U.S. history, but in world history. The most insanely prolific liar in human history. Does that cause the same outrage reaction in Tim Pool? No, it does not. Nor will it in any of them, because that Taylor Lorenz was right about. It has become an ideological war. So those two things are still ongoing. But there is something new on YouTube that I noticed. Is it time for another commercial interruption? Do you have a very expensive brand new iPad? Have you been wondering how to make the experience just a little bit worse? Try Paperlike. Oh wait, the commercial's over. All right, we're back to the thing on YouTube that is new to me. One of you brought it up, and I immediately went and checked. And apparently there is a NaNowrimo 2.0. The founder of NaNowrimo and a whole bunch of the people from NaNowrimo have banded together to make a new version of NaNowrimo. And it will be slightly different. Now, the loaded question is, what will its stance be on AI? The thing that killed the original NaNowrimo. And as far as I know, they've been conspicuously silent on that subject. But I'll leave a link to the website so that you can go and see if maybe you want to participate. Will there be discussion forums? Will there be anything like the feeling of camaraderie that existed? One major difference that I've been able to see is that Nano 2.0 does not have the same structure that NaNowrimo did. NaNowrimo said that you were working on the first draft of a new work at 50,000 words in the month of November. You weren't starting before the first day in November, and you weren't spilling after. So you were writing 50,000 words in the month of November on a new work. You're not fiddling around on something old. You're writing a new work of fiction in November at 50,000 words, which is 1,667 words a day. And that is it. That is the structure of the old NaNowrimo, and I thought that was great. I loved that. I loved a lot about the old NaNowrimo, but I love that because the only way you're going to do that is if you don't edit while you write. As far as I'm concerned, that was the number one skill that the old NaNowrimo taught to all of its participants, which is that you cannot, they are two completely different activities. Completely different. You don't play checkers while you're swimming. They're completely different activities. They aren't connected to each other at all. And so you can't do the one while you're doing the other. And it's the number one thing that I've seen that gets in the way of every writer, is that they edit while they're writing. They drive with the brakes on. And in the old NaNowrimo, you could not possibly do that. You could not possibly get to 1,667 words a day if you were editing while you were doing it. So they taught a lot of people to decouple those, and that was a very good thing to teach them. And as far as I can tell, this NaNo 2.0 doesn't have that. There is no 50,000 word guideline. There is no goal like that. Instead, it's you write what you want for the month of November, and the key thing we're going to stress here is not the metrics, but the fellowship. And I don't know, I'll take that over nothing. That might be a lot of fun. So I'll leave a link to the website there. I haven't seen much on YouTube about this, which is kind of odd. I haven't seen much on AuthorTube either, even though there were whole channels devoted to NaNowrimo. Maybe I'm just missing them. But let me know what you think. Because if this is something viable, well, then we can do a few Preptober videos and then talk about NaNo 2.0 all during November. We can actually write during November. I mean, you could anyway. But now there seems to be a kind of a structure to it. So I found that fascinating for general YouTube. Then we've already talked about BookTube, Book Bros, on Book Talk. So then we can talk about me, and then we can wrap this up. And the subject about me is also ongoing. It is housekeeping gate. Because I mentioned yesterday that the place is a mess, and I don't, it's not that I'm precious, it's not that I'm little Lord Fauntleroy, it's that I don't know what cleaning really means. I know how to clean up a piece of your prose. I can do that, and I can do that really fast and really well. But I don't know what cleaning a room means. I just don't. I don't know what it means. I don't know whether or not I'm doing an even halfway good job. So I brought up the prospect of, well, what about hiring someone? You know, in all the Victorian stuff that I'm reading from Victober, there are housekeepers. No one does their own house cleaning. No one does. Even the poorest characters don't do that. And I spent some time in India, and when I was in India, it was a commonly accepted thing that you could be making almost no money at all. You could be making a very modest income, but you still had a woman who came in 3 days a week to clean and tidy, or maybe you had someone who came in every day to cook supper. Of the tiny amount of money that you were making, you paid her an even tinier amount, but at least it was something. At least she had a purpose, and you did not do your own housework. Now, I don't mean to make it sound Victorian. Oh my God, I just realized how bad I'm making myself sound. It's not that I think it's beneath me. Of course, I don't think it's beneath me. I come from probably 200 generations of people who push mops for a living, but I'm not good at it. I'm terrible at it. I don't even know that I'm doing a bad job. I don't even see what I'm missing. So I raised the idea of going online and hiring a housekeeper, a house cleaning service of some kind or other. I know exactly what I want, and it doesn't appear to exist online, unless one of you can tell me otherwise. I would like a regular housekeeper. I don't want a professional who's going to come in and give me an estimate and then judge me the whole time, or even tell me that they're judging me. I would like just an ordinary person to come in and clean and tidy. Once a week, 2 times a week, something like that. I guess that kind of an informal arrangement doesn't exist in America anymore, where everybody wants to sue everybody else or shoot everybody else. But the alternatives I was looking at online don't look all that good. Maybe I need to look more. Maybe one of you has a particular service in mind that you might recommend. It's not going to matter in the short term. Well, I should stress, because I have a feeling that Hyde Cottage is going to get a really spick and span cleaning in very little time. And that will be more or less free. Room and board, but more or less free. But after that, I don't really know what my options are. I really need to look at it. So that is the me portion, is that I'm still thinking about that. I'm still pondering having some sort of a house cleaner come in here. And just, I don't even know how it would work. In my mind, I'm picturing a late middle-aged woman, which is probably stereotypical of me. I'm picturing something from Hazel or the Brady Bunch. What I wouldn't give for Alice. She had her own little room right off the kitchen. Took care of everything. So, what I'm picturing is someone like that, where they come to me on the first Tuesday of the month, or whatever day is good for them. I hand them a $100 bill. They do as much as they feel like, as much as is obviously necessary for that visit. They're gone in about an hour. And then they come back that week or the next week, whenever they feel like they need to for the money. They don't have to be painting anything or doing construction work. I don't know if that's a reasonable amount of money, or that's just highway robbery. That's the ongoing subject. But I will try next time I do one of these videos to make the me section about books. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.